Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be reviewing NieR Automata for the PlayStation 4. This title was sent to me by Square Enix so that I could give it a look and tell you guys my opinions on it. Now, when it comes to defining the genre of NieR Automata, it is quite a bit challenging, honestly, because it consists of a spectacle fighter that also has a lot of RPG mechanics on it, as well as some shoot-them-up sequences, and that is kind of like the best way that I can possibly describe it, because there just simply isn't this kind of genre all put together in the same game. I've never really seen it before. But starting with the review, let's get right into visuals and animation. From there, we'll go to sound and music, story, gameplay, and, just kind of like general comments that I have on the game. There's probably going to be a topic list and a comment or something that has timestamps so that you guys can kind of skip through the video if you don't want to watch specific sections. So, without further ado, let's get started. Visuals and animations. So, NieR Automata kind of does that thing that a lot of Japanese games tend to do, which is they focus on the detail of the main characters, and in turn, when you look at the levels, maybe they're not as well detailed as these characters, and some of the side characters of the game also clearly didn't receive as much attention as the main characters themselves. Now, this is something that you will notice very early on as you begin to play NieR Automata, but to be completely honest, I don't really care that much about the side characters, because you're not going to interact with them that much. I do care a little bit about the levels, but the advantage of having a little bit attention on these worlds basically means that you can actually get those sweet 60 FPS. So, in my opinion, I prefer this choice over them having like these overly detailed levels and then we're kind of stuck on the 30 FPS train again. So, to be completely honest, I respect the decision that they've made of having this game run at 60 FPS because I don't think you could actually play this game if it wasn't running at a high enough FPS because there's just so much happening at any given time on the screen that the faster frame rate definitely helps in my personal opinion. Now, when it comes to other aspects of the visuals, something that I've noticed as I was playing through the game is I kind of felt the game could have used a little bit more color splashed through some of the levels or even some of the characters. I mean, your main character is dressed in black. The friend of your main character is also dressed in black. And when you actually go to the bunker, which is kind of like one of your hubs, the footage is literally black and white. So you kind of do get a feeling that the game lacks a little bit of color, but I wanted to bring this up because there's pretty much counterpoints to almost all the downsides that I'm bringing up, which is interesting. But this is intentional. The fact that the game lacks a little bit of color is intentional because it is an artistic choice and it relates very closely to the story. The more you play the game, the more you will understand why these choices were made like this, because the way the game looks is meant to basically evoke feelings and sensations from you that you couldn't feel if the game was more colorful, more bright, more hopeful, that kind of stuff. And that's as much as I'm going to go through there. Like, I still feel like I wanted more color because I just like more colorful games. That is my personal opinion. But it doesn't need that. And the fact that it looks like this is, like I said, it is an artistic choice and it relates very closely to the story. When it comes to animations, the game looks great. All of the animations so far, I haven't seen one animation that was like, well, that looked weird. Not a single one. So everything animates just like it should as far as I'm concerned. And you guys know that I'm a sucker for animations, and this game animates amazingly, be it in combat, be it in cutscenes. There is a little bit of a drawback when it comes to cutscenes, though, because there's this thing where you're running the game at 60 FPS at all times, and then suddenly a cutscene comes in, and the cutscenes are at 30 FPS. That kind of throws you off a little bit. At least it threw me off constantly. Why couldn't they just record the cutscenes at 60 FPS? I'm not entirely sure why they wouldn't do that. It is a little bit weird when you're just like, okay, you come from the 60 FPS section, they put you in a cutscene, it's 30 FPS, and it's a little bit jarring, the switch. But other than that, it's not really that in of itself is not a big deal. Like I said, the animation, excellent. Even the animation of the cutscenes, even though it's 30 FPS, it's still good animation of the cutscenes. The game looks great. It looks very artistic, and personally, I like it. I like it quite a bit. And something that I kind of don't know exactly where to mention this. I'm going to be talking in more detail when I get to the gameplay section, but there's something to be said because this is also very visual thing that happens, which is this game goes from third-person action, which is like the spectacle fighting portion that I brought at the start of this video, to shoot them up and side-scroller, and it kind of shifts between these different perspectives constantly and manages to deliver a great experience on all fronts. So I'm not sure if I should be mentioning this particular portion on the visuals or just on the gameplay, because even though it is a distinct change in gameplay and stuff like that, it is also a distinct change in visuals, and I just wanted to make sure that you guys understand that all of that works great in tandem, at least the experience that I personally had on the PS4, because I heard there's some performance issues on the PC and all that. I've had a couple of dips here and there when the screen's too busy or in certain sections that have a lot of special effects and stuff like that. But nothing that really I was like, oh man, this is unplayable. Nothing like that at all. And the performance was pretty much close to 60 FPS, or as close as it could get throughout most of it, to the point where it just felt like 60 FPS throughout the whole experience. I was playing on a PlayStation 4 Pro. Not sure if the experience is that much different on the regular PlayStation 4, but you guys can see what it was like. There are live streams of my entire playthrough of NieR Automata in the channel, so you guys can check out the performance stuff there. Personally, I thought the game looked great as is. So now, let's talk about sound and music. Sounds great. You know, the impact of swords, the clashing of swords, the explosion of machines. There's even this thing that you can do further down the line. There's like a special chip that you can get. We'll talk about chips and upgrades for your characters later down the line, but there was this one thing that I found particularly satisfying close to the end, which there's this chip where you can actually get machines, which are the enemy that you're fighting throughout the game. You can get them to have like a death scream whenever you do something to them. And so I would just do that all the time, and I'd be hearing the machines go and exploding, and I don't know, that was just very satisfying. So sound, the game sounds great. I've heard a lot of complaints about the voice acting. I would have to go ahead and disagree. I thought the voice acting was fine. I mean, it was not amazing, it was not particularly impressive, but I thought it was fine. And I think people don't understand that there's this thing where it's particularly challenging for, at least I think it's particularly challenging for voice actors when they're told you're going to be voicing an android, because your main character is an android. This is not a spoiler. The main character is an android, and her sidekick is also an android. So I think a lot of people expect these androids to be like super emotional or something. I mean, they probably are super emotional in their Japanese voice packs. But I don't know, there's something to be said that maybe when you're voice acting an android, you should kind of keep in check the amount of emotion that you have. I don't know. I just thought the voice acting was fine. I didn't think it was that bad. Like a lot of people were saying, "Oh my God, I can't take the English voiceover," and I'm like, "Shut up, just whatever, dude." English voiceover was fine. Probably the Japanese voiceover was better, which is a good thing, in the sense that the game comes with both voice packs, if I remember correctly. In my first stream, I think I kind of switched back and forth between English and Japanese, so that is a good thing. Very appreciated that Square Enix brought in the Japanese voice pack, because you know that there are those people that are always going to be subs over dubs. I'm one of them, to be completely honest, but like for the purpose of playing a game on a live stream, I went with the dub because it was simpler, so that I wouldn't have to read the whole text the whole time. But yeah, and then most important thing when it comes to sound and music in this game is this goddamn soundtrack. This just a friggin' amazing soundtrack. Like, this soundtrack blew my mind. Like, whenever you're in a boss fight in this game, it is just, I can't describe it. I can't describe to you how good this soundtrack is. You have to experiment it, because the soundtrack really comes together with the gameplay and the story and delivers. It just delivers an amazing experience. Like, to give you guys an idea, there was this one point in the game where I was really progressing through it, and I hadn't saved in a while, and I had like this bug. It happened to me once, so I don't think it's a big deal at all. But I had like this bug where for some reason audio wasn't working properly, and the only way to proceed was without music. And I was like, the hell with that. I'll take the hit. I'll take like, I think it was like 30 minutes or 40 minutes of progress or something that I lost, and I just redid that whole area so that I could play it with music. That's how important music is in this game and how good it is in this game. Like, people in chat were even saying, dude, you can't play this game without music. You just can't do it. It's impossible, because music is that good. So yeah, I just wanted to bring up soundtrack. One of the best soundtracks that I've heard this year, just straight up. I don't know if it's the best because I haven't really had a whole lot of time to think about it because, like I said, we've had a lot of really good games this year, but like this one really, really marked me. It is impressive work what they've done with this soundtrack, okay? Just wanted to make sure that I emphasize it. I'm not sure if I've mentioned it, but this soundtrack is fucking amazing, okay? You'll understand when you play the game. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about story. So story is going to be a particularly hard thing to talk about because I want to make sure that I don't incur into any spoilers, because anyone that is looking forward to playing this game, any kind of spoiler will greatly diminish your experience. So I would advise you, like, dude, if you haven't played NieR Automata yet and you're planning on doing so, like, media blackout, dude, just stay away from the internet because like any spoiler that comes is gonna just like break it. But anyway, this story is a complete mindfuck, just straight up a mindfuck. So there's not only multiple endings to this game, the game doesn't actually end after you finish the first time round, which this is not a spoiler. This is something that I kind of feel like I should tell people because I know of some people that actually finished the first ending and they just stopped playing because they thought that was it. There's like a lot more of the game. I think I finished the initial playthrough in about 10 hours, and when I actually ended the game, I was like closer to 30 something hours. So just to give you guys an idea, there's actually 20 more hours of content after the first ending of the game, and I didn't even like 100% the game. So there's lots of stuff. So beyond the multiple endings that you have for this game, there's also multiple perspectives. Now, I don't want to get into too much detail here because, again, spoilers and all that. If you guys want to know more about it, you can go through the playthrough that I did, and you can get to know more of what multiple perspectives actually means. But there's multiple endings, multiple perspectives, and the subject matter kept me personally hooked throughout. Like this game kind of delves into what is it to be a human, you know, what defines people as humans, and can machines or androids achieve a state similar to a human? You know, it's kind of weird talking about it without being able to give too much detail, but there are a lot of philosophical debates that take place in this game. What defines us as people? You know, like that kind of stuff. And that kept me hooked. Just like straight up all the way until the end. I was just like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? Like, what's the next big reveal? And as a matter of fact, it's always a good sign for me. Like, if a story is really... I'm sorry, I'm like losing myself. It's almost worse than how confusing the story in the game is right now. But what I meant to say is, when a story has me going back and looking up clues about what really happened in a game, you know, some people might say, oh, it's just because maybe it's too confusing, it's too complex. It's like, no, it's because there's so many things happening that sometimes I found it hard to follow the story, particularly because I was also live streaming the game. So a lot of times I'd be trying to pay attention to chat and trying to pay attention to the story of NieR, and it is complex for sure. And it had me going back and looking up stuff, because there's also not everything is told just throughout the game. It's not like it is a narrative driven game, but it is not just narrative driven. You have to actually read documents to figure out what exactly is going on and where did things go wrong, or why do things happen the way that they do. And there's like this whole story bringing this whole thing together, and it's just like, it's going to be hard for you to understand in one sitting, is all I'm saying. And as a matter of fact, the interesting thing about the story and the events that happen in this game is that only a video game could tell a story like this. This is the kind of game that just watching a Let's Play will not tell you everything. And not only it will not tell you everything, it will also not be able to evoke the feelings that you get by the time you actually finish the game. Like, if you guys go and watch just like the ending, you will see that my expression when I figured out what the fuck was happening, I was like, what? Oh my god! Like my mind was just fucking blown, and not just from the story of the game itself, but from the mechanics in which this story is told, if that makes sense. I can't really explain it any other way. I know that probably this particular section of the review is going to be really complicated. I guess ultimately what I can say is the story is most definitely worth it to be experienced, but more importantly than just experiencing the story, be it through a Let's Play or whatever, is actually engaging in it, is actually playing the video game, is as much a part of the story as the storytelling itself, which is impressive. It's impressive what they've done that actually had me thinking like that. NieR Automata is an impressive game when it comes to story. So now, let's get to the real good stuff. Let's get to gameplay. So very important, a lot of people sometimes dismiss these kind of games because they'll be like, oh man, Platinum Games, man, that shit's way too crazy for me. It's way too fast-paced. I can't keep up. Maybe you're the kind of gamer that is more chill. You don't really want those super challenging games. Or maybe you're just an older gamer that doesn't have the same reflexes he had when he was younger. Or maybe even you're a handicapped person and you just like, you've had an accident. You maybe don't have as many fingers. No, I don't want to get too detailed with that. But basically what I'm saying is that this game, the story is so good that it is worth experiencing even if you are lowering the difficulty. And not only that, the game has this thing that it does where basically if you go into easy mode, the game has these chips that you can put into your character that it will actually get the character to attack for you and dodge for you. Like, let's say maybe you feel like comfortable enough to dodge but not comfortable enough to attack, or you feel comfortable enough to attack, not comfortable enough to dodge. You have different chips that can do stuff automatically, that can fire your pod automatically. Basically, the game can be set to a mode where it almost plays itself for you, and all you have to do is move the character in the direction you want her to go so that you can engage in the quests that you want to engage in. And the reason I bring this up is because, like I said, in my opinion, this is a game that if you have any of the platforms where this game's supported, I think it's Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC, I would advise you to play this game. Like, the story is that good. The experience of playing this game was that good that I would seriously just advise anyone that can play this game, play it. It is most definitely worth it. Even if you play it on easy, even if you install all of the auto mods that make the game easier, even if that's the way you do it, it is still worth it to experience the storyline. I personally recommend that. I just wanted to make sure that I bring it up that this is not just one of those challenging games. You can actually play it in kind of like an easy mode if you want to just chill and experience the story for yourself, which is a good thing. I know a lot of people are like, oh man, why are casuals being able to do this kind of stuff? And it's like, it's not just about being casual. It's about this story is so good that, in my opinion, it deserves that anyone that wants to experience it can experience it. Having said that, though, the game provides plenty of challenge. Now, personally, I played it on normal, and it was still pretty damn... I still felt pretty damn challenged until I actually came to grips with the controls, because it took me a while to get used to how the game controlled. Because, I mean, let's face it. Let me just tell you some of these controls right here. So, talking about the PlayStation 4 controller, DualShock 4. So your L2 is lock on, so you tap it once and then you lock onto a target. Your R1 shoots, and you can shoot and attack at the same time. Your R2 dodges, so basically you'll be pressing L2 to lock onto someone, then holding R1 if you want to maximize your damage, holding R1 to shoot at your target, and then pressing R2 whenever you need to dodge. And at the same time, while you're doing all of these things, be able to do combos with square and triangle, and do special attacks using L1. So there's just like this whole bunch of stuff happening. And it took me a while to get used to it, particularly being able to shoot and attack at the same time. It really does take a while for you to get used to that. But once you do get used to it, it is awesome. It feels great just like shooting at someone while you're slashing them, and then just like doing the perfect dodge and then countering the attack by, you know, doing like something that takes them up into the air and then doing a down attack, bring them back down. It's just like very, very satisfying to do that stuff. And like I said, you've got multiple difficulty levels. I was playing on normal, which still provided a bit of challenge. I mean, not too much once I got to grips with it, but if you play it on hard, stuff gets way more complicated. Like you can't lock onto enemies, and then enemies deal more damage, and then you deal less damage. And then there's also the insane difficulty, I think, which I don't even want to think about that. Like I had enough challenge with normal. Thank you very much. But if what I'm saying is that this game can be played by people who don't want much of a challenge, just like can be played by people who really want a lot more challenge. So just get you guys to grips with that. So the gameplay consists, like we said at the very start of this video, the gameplay consists of Spectacle Fighter, which is what Platinum Games is known for. Spectacle Fighter, you know, doing combos with your square and your triangle, and just like your character, there's all kinds of really cool moves in third person. However, it constantly shifts between third person, side scroller, as well as shoot them up. And that can be confusing for people. Like, it was definitely confusing for me the first time I saw it. I was like, what's going on? All of a sudden, this is a shoot them up? And yes, it is. And sometimes it switches even more, and you'll go like this weird side scroller mode, and you're just like, what is going on? But all of that stuff is put together in a way that is really good. Basically, that's all I can really say. Because like when you get those scene switches almost, where it's like you go from third person action to side scroller, and then the soundtrack shifts and it becomes more aggressive because something is happening, and then at the same time, all of a sudden, like you shift and you're in shoot them up mode. It's just the dynamic way and organic way. When all of this occurs throughout a single level, it pretty much ensures that almost each level is its own thing. And that is a good thing, because it breaks conventional mechanics. Because like you're used to a game basically telling you, oh, here's your fast attack, here's your strong attack, now go out into the world and repeat at infinite. Whereas this game is like, no, you think you know what's happening? No, you don't. Now let me throw something completely different at you, and boom. Now you're side-scrolling, and boom. Now you shoot them up, and now you're like shoot them up in 360 mode. Now you shoot them up in vertical scrolling mode, and it's just like it switches between these things so organically, and so it just kind of flows together. Where at the start, the first time you'll see it, you're like, this is kind of weird. It feels kind of weird. But after a while into the game, you're just like so used to it, and it feels great. You're just like constantly thinking, what's going to happen next? You know, you're always thinking, what's next? What is the next thing they're going to throw at me? And that is cool. Like all the way until one of the final boss fights that I had, where just like I can't even, I want to talk about it so much because it was so cool, but I can't. I just really can't. And because it would be a massive spoiler in my opinion, and I don't want to put that on a review. But if you want, if you want to see it, you can just see like the final video on the playthrough. It's on the channel, and you guys can go there and you can watch it. And the final section is so good, so good. Now let me get a little bit more into RPG mechanics. You guys might be wondering, okay, so shoot them up, I understand. Side-scrolling action, I understand. What do they have in here that meshes the RPG with the Spectacle Fighter action? And the RPG mechanics that you have is that you will collect materials. This game does function as an open world. A lot of people will question whether or not it should have been an open world. And I kind of think that one of the main reasons why it's necessary that it is an open world is because if it was a linear game, I think you would get bored of it because of the repetition in certain sections of the world. Whereas being an open world game, if you're just like, oh, I'm a little bit tired of the main story, because like I said, there are certain sections of the story that do feel a bit repetitive. This is because of the multiple perspective things that I said. And that's all I'm going to say on that to avoid spoilers. And when you get to a point like that, where just like, I'm a little bit bored of this story right now because it's kind of like it's repeating stuff that I've already heard, you can kind of go off and do other things. You can kind of go off, do side quests. You can go off and fish, which actually provides you with a lot of in-game currency so that you can do your upgrades, do a lot of stuff. Like fishing is one of the best ways for you to earn credits in the game. Credits, G's. In this game, it's G's. I guess it's something for gold. That's like one of the best ways for you to get stuff is just go fish. So there are other activities in the game, and the fact that it's an open world allows you to kind of decide what you want to tackle on next. Whereas, like I said, if this was more linear, I think the repetition would feel a lot worse than it feels this way. But either way, as I was saying, RPG mechanics. You will collect materials. These materials will allow you to upgrade your weapons, upgrade your pods, which are the little robot dudes that are hanging out with your androids, and they're the dudes who kind of like shoot stuff. And you can upgrade them so that they'll deal more damage and so on and so forth. Let me just tell you something. I've played through the whole game. I wasn't able to upgrade my pods once. So if you're able to do that, good on you. I wasn't able to do it. Upgrading weapons will get your weapons to deal more damage. And then there's also a chips mechanic, as in computer chips. Because like I said, your main character is an android. So the way it works is you will collect chips from machines. And these chips will basically be passive bonuses. Most of them. I think most of them are passive. And the way it works is you will equip different chips in your character, and they will have different effects. Like, for instance, you can have a chip that increases the damage you deal with weapons. You can have a chip that increases the damage you deal with ranged combat. And now you guys are like, well, that seems pretty basic. Well, you can also equip a chip that will give you lifesteal. You can equip a chip that will give you life regen. You can equip a chip that will let you dodge bullets better. You can equip a chip that will let you explode bullets. So there's a wide variety of what you can do with these chips, and all of these chips have a cost. So you have a limit, I think it's 128, to what the amount of chips that you can equip. So you have to kind of organize and decide, okay, I want a chip that increases my melee damage, a chip that increases my melee defense, and you have to kind of like, that's kind of how you do builds in NieR. And it's cool because you can constantly swap your chips around. And that was pretty satisfying. There's also fusing chips so that you get like chips that are cheaper or chips that are stronger. So there's a really in-depth mechanic there that you can spend a lot of time min-maxing if you're into that stuff. Which I personally am, so I personally spent a lot of time just like min-maxing my build. A lot of times people would tune into the stream and I'm like, yeah, just min-maxing a little bit here. I'll be right done and I'll get right back to the game. So that was really cool. So like I said, some serious RPG mechanics on there. You'll find some weapons, other weapons you can buy off of vendors. And there's a wide variety of weapons as well. From short sword, well, maybe not wide variety. There's a lot of weapons. There's not maybe a lot of weapon types. I think there's swords, fists, larger swords, and spears. I think those are the main weapon types. You can also use your own fists, although I think that's probably not going to be very effective. But I don't know, because I didn't try it. Upgrading your weapons, they deal more damage. But not only that, each weapon has like a backstory. This was interesting. And each time you upgrade the weapon, it reveals more of its backstory. So that's kind of cool. I think that a lot of these are references to other Yoko Taro games like Drakengard, NieR, that kind of stuff. So if you played those games, finding these weapons now and, reading about the stories is going to be a lot more meaningful than someone like me who hasn't played the original NieR and only played a little bit of Drakengard 3. So if you know these previous Yoko Taro games, you're going to get a lot more out of these stories from the swords, as well as some of the texts that are in-game that reference Project Gestalt, which, if I'm not mistaken, is something from the original NieR. And there's just like a lot of references to previous Yoko Taro games. But that is pretty much gameplay in a nutshell. The side quests, there are a lot of side quests that didn't really captivate me. I know that there's some good side quests in this game, but there's also a lot of side quests that I was just like, man, I don't. So I skipped a lot of the side quests, and I probably missed out on a lot of stuff because of that. But I was just so engrossed by the main story that I just kind of kept like beelining it, which you can do. So it's not necessarily something that's bad, but it's just I kind of feel like there's still a lot more of the game. I think there's also secret bosses that I never found, which is kind of weird because I thought I had fought most of the bosses, but people were telling me, are you going to do the secret bosses? And I was like, what the hell are you guys talking about? I don't know anything about no secret bosses, man. So there is a lot to NieR Automata. There is a lot of game there. There is a lot of entertainment there. And like I said, this game comes highly recommended. Definitely one of the best games that came out in 2017. And I really hope that if you own a platform where this game's supported, that you give it a shot. Because there's just, again, there's no way that you can experience what I experienced, particularly near the end of the game. Near the end of the game, there was some really special moments there. And my chat was telling me stuff when I did my choices, and I was just like, oh my god, that's crazy. So yeah, highly recommend it. Really, really, really like NieR Automata, and yeah, let me know what you guys think. This is my review. NieR Automata, game's amazing. It's got a couple of things with the side quests and whatnot, but other than that, it's just like highly recommended. Really, really loved it. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe if you are new so that you're always notified whenever I have a new video out or whenever I'm live streaming. And if you really, really enjoyed the video, there's also the option to sponsor on YouTube. There's going to be a link that will take you to the YouTube gaming side of things, and there's a sponsor button there. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.